Very responsible.
So, yeah, in the future, just.
Yeah, renovating around that too.
Okay, we're ready to get started, guys. We're at the city council meeting, regular meeting, Tuesday, June 25th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at Public Works Building. And we'll get an invocation followed by the pledge of allegiance, please.
Father, we thank you again for this day and your blessings on this beautiful country and our nation and our city. Just ask you to be with us today. Lord, we pray your will be done in every decision that's made. Give you glory, praise for all you've done in Christ's name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, can we take the roll, please?
Mayor Wolf.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Hamilton.
Here.
Mr. Adams.
Here.
Mr. Linder.
Here.
Okay, first thing on the agenda is the consent minutes for May the 14th and June the 11th. Has everyone over them any comments or changes? Yeas and nays, we're good?
Don't have anything.
Yeah.
Good.
Tammy, that's good. Could move on to ordinance 837, and Laura would then call you to the, I guess, podium.
Yes, good evening. For the record, my name is Alara Mills Gutcher, and we are discussing the ordinance that amends Chapter 2 of the Land Development Regulations that pertain to accessory uses and accessory structures. And as we mentioned the last meeting, we are pretty much removing the language from the tables that individually talk about the zoning districts and then augmenting the language that exists today, which is in section 2.03, I'm sorry, 2.04 and 2.05 of the Land Development Regulations to just clarify some language, discuss how we're going to treat some of these structures, and mainly separate the discussion of the structures from the uses in the Land Development Code for clarity. Because as you can recall, a structure is something that requires a building permit. Usually, there are exceptions to smaller sheds and the like, and then accessory use is something that we're using the building for, or having a use for, rather than talking about a specific structure. So with the structure language, we're talking about the bulk regulations of the building, and with the use language, we're talking about what we're doing inside of that, or what we're doing on the property. And those are just, in a nutshell, the clarifications to the amendment requested.
I think before we go to the public, I think there was just, I think there might be an appetite for making some changes. And maybe we'll get and let the obviously let the public go first, but I think at the table we have some changes that I want to talk about. Any public comment on this? Lisa, come on up.
Lisa Logan, Mexico Beach. One of the things at issue with this is the proposal to put it in the rear setbacks. And the proposal is to have a 5-foot rear setback. I just want to remind you that we have fought diligently and quite aggressively to protect our setbacks for many, many years, to keep the rear setback at 10 feet. Those setbacks are there for a reason. They are to protect the neighboring properties from being overwhelmed by the person who is trying to put structures by the property lines. And I think it would be a grave disservice to most of the property owners here in town, because let's face it, most of these pole barns that are being used for boat and RV storage are going to be in the residential section. And you need to think of the surrounding property owners and protect the setbacks. If we do not allow encroachment into the setback for steps, additions to the house, decks, other accessory structures, not even for elevator shafts, why then would we suddenly say that it's okay to encroach 50% into the rear setback with a 16-foot tall pole barn and the back end of a boat and an RV? So you need to think about why those setbacks are in place and ask the question, how does reducing the setback benefit the residents of Mexico Beach?
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience? Okay, we're going to move the table. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Cindy Donnelly, 2703 Mexico Beach. I think that if we are going to look at allowing some changes to the setback, then we should consider those aspects that she's speaking of. Because a lot of the homes now need elevators, and I didn't think about that originally, but because most of them have been elevated, there's more of a need for the external elevator shafts than when they didn't think about it, when building homes. So if we are considering that in the setbacks, I'd like for us to look inclusively on those other elements as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience? Before I look down? Thank you. Okay, we're going to move to the table. At the table, I guess I'll go ahead and give my comments first. I've obviously reviewed this, and I think that a 10-foot setback, I agree with it. I disagree with the 5-foot, and there's reasons for that. I think on the 12 and 16-foot, I need some clarity to really understand that. I see them both being the same thing, to tell you the truth. I mean, I understand we're calling it a pole barn. If we're going to call it a pole barn, does that mean we can enclose it? Will it ever be enclosed? I think we need to keep that in our minds and figure that out to see if that's going to happen or not. I know it's called a boat ramp or a garage, a detached garage or boat ramp. And that's the only thing different in it. So I also question the 12 to 16 foot. Anybody else at the table? Comments?
Yeah, I have comments too, like, what is the driving force right now? Like, why are we doing this now? Why do we find this to be so important? And also, if the P&Z unanimously voted for it with changes, what are those changes that they recommended?
Yes, they did have a couple recommendations from the original. Let me get back to my notes. They, we originally had in 2.04.01, General Standards and Requirements, Part E, there was discussion there about the size of the accessory structure and how big it could be. And so there was discussion going from the 75% to the 50% of the square footage of the primary structure. So that was something they recommended. And then there was a lot of discussion about the difference between the 12 feet and the 16 feet on the height of the accessory structure. And part of that discussion included non-residential districts, for example, the chapel that is over here on 98, and how that was taller than 16 feet, and would that have been allowed by code, by right? So
That's the one at the drip line you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So there was discussion about letting accessory structures be as high as the primary structure limitation in that type of zoning district, but then limiting them only to the residential districts, which we ended up listing. So that was a change. They wanted to specify that they wanted accessory structures to be allowed to be the height of the primary structure in the non-residential districts. And then they wanted to differentiate the pole barn with the 16-foot height limitation because of the ability, to enable the ability for a boat to park under it. Some of the members were concerned that 12 feet wasn't tall enough for a boat to fit under it in the residential zoning districts.
Laura, I understand that, but I guess where I need the clarity, when you read this, you read the 12 foot, you read the 16 foot.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing in there that says, I mean, obviously a 12 foot can be enclosed because it's a structure. So it could have windows and doors.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that limits that pole barn from not having windows and doors.
Right, because as you come in and get a building permit for an accessory structure, it's not something that we typically look at planning. It's usually just granted a building permit, and they hopefully are looking at the setbacks and the impervious surface maximums. So they would know at the building permit stage whether or not it's a pole barn or a detached garage that may or may be enclosed, or a detached carport that may not be enclosed. Excuse me.
So as soon as they say pole barn, they go to 16 feet and it's not enclosed. That doesn't say that.
So it says that the primary structure, let's see, 12 feet maximum in height in certain zoning districts, and they're listed there, and limited to the primary structure height limit for other zoning districts, and that was the commercial zoning district, to allow them to be as high as the commercial primary structure in those districts. And then structures used as a detached garage or a boathouse in the RLD, RG, HDR, and TD districts may increase the accessory structure maximum height to 16 feet, thinking that if somebody wanted to have a garage for their boat, then they can enclose it as well.
Okay, and based on Mrs. Hamilton's question, I question what they can really do. If they're saying it's just a pole barn, okay. Let's say it's just a pole barn, can't have windows, can't have doors.
Right. We don't have that differentiation. It's just the structure itself. It's just the envelope of the building. It doesn't have to do with whether or not it's a pole barn or an enclosed garage. It's just the height of the structure.
So it can be an enclosed,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
So I think, part of that concern would be if they can enclose it, how do we not know that they're gonna turn that into a rental apartment?
So again, we'd have to go back to the building permit level, and hopefully they're catching whether or not they're putting in a bathroom and a kitchen and those facilities into a garage. Because
And isn't there a square footage that it has to be if it goes above like 700 square feet?
Yes, we do have a regulation in the code that limits dwellings to be greater, 700 square feet or greater.
You guys done?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm just using my-
So, Laura, I too am confused when I look at the 12 versus the 16. Because it looks to me as I read this that they're allowing 12 foot and the low density residential, the general residential, high density and townhomes, and the 16 foot also. Is that correct?
So the intent was that the planning board or the P&Z wanted to allow someone to either enclose or pole barn or whatever we want to describe it, their boat. So you might have a shed out there that's 8 or 10 or 12 feet that doesn't hold a boat, but their concern was they wanted people to be able to store their boats on premise, covered or enclosed.
Okay, so I guess what I'm concerned about, one of the things with this is somebody could put a 16-foot building in a neighborhood where it's predominantly single-story homes, and it could be 16 feet, and it could also be enclosed. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. Some of the other concerns I have are, what about irregularly shaped lots? Is that gonna change how this works? Will it make any difference?
No, because setbacks are measured from the exterior, from the property line, so even
Okay.
if you have an irregularly, you still have a measurement from the property
Yeah.
line.
So I am concerned about what started out, I think, is redefine, to clarify what an accessory structure was, and that was done well. Then we got into either clarifying or modifying setbacks and heights, and I think we need to step back and re-examine this, because as I look at this, I'm kind of confused about the wording, and I'm not sure. For example, if you put a 16-foot building in certain neighborhoods, it may look out of place. And if it's 5 feet, is the rainwater going to go into the next property because it's so close? Is it gonna affect noise level or shade if you have a garage that somebody's working in that's closer? I mean, I know 7.5 feet and 10 feet isn't very far, but it just seems like maybe we're jumping into this without really looking at it enough. And I would recommend that we postpone the reading and have the staff and Laura take a look at this, provide them some of our concerns, and come back with some recommendations either the next council meeting or the following one, because I don't see an urgency to make this decision. I don't think. Is there an urgency that I don't
No,
see?
there's no urgency. Just know that today you do have the 12 and 16 feet in there. That's how it reads today.
Right, but it's not at 5 feet.
No, the setback, right. You're right. The setback is not at 5 feet today.
Yeah, and when I look at the setbacks for the different districts, both the residential areas are side 7.5 feet, rear 10 feet. It's when you get into the townhome and the tourist commercial that the side can be 0. And so it may not be affecting anything, but I'm not sure in those areas, since a garage or a pole barn would also have to meet the impervious ratios, if that will affect them. But keep in mind, the impervious ratio is...
They do have to meet it based on that.
Right, but keep in mind, it's not the same in all the districts. It's 0.4 in the residential, it's up to 0.85 in the tourist commercial. So I'm not sure what this all will look like. And so I just think we need to step back and re-examine this, would be my recommendation.
I think there's an appetite probably for the 10-foot, probably the setback. We currently have 16-foot pole barns in our city. I have a guy building a 2-story house right next to my house, and it's a single level. So I don't think 16 feet is as big as a deal as it is if somebody's gonna try to make that a dwelling. I think that's a bigger. But I think there's some things, some rules in place that guard that, the 700 foot, the permitting, having bathrooms, showers, things like that you can stop at. But as far as a pole barn, I really think that, I would suggest that we rule on that, but
Rich, that may be in the building department, but in this, I know we're trying to get away from in accessory structures saying use, but I'm not sure that you couldn't, we're talking pole barn. There's nowhere in here it says pole barn. They can make a 16-foot structure that has sides and windows and 2 stories in it for, and so I think that needs to be sorted out a little bit. That's the only thing I'm concerned about, or that's one of the things I'm concerned about.
They have to get a permit now to do all what you said they have to do. They just don't build a structure. They have to get a permit to build that structure. Is that right?
Right.
So
and
you just assuming that just because I want a pole barn, put my boat up under, or your boat up under, they gonna build a 2-story condominium. That's what you said. Good? Yes.
Yes, I'm saying that's a
So,
possibility.
but you had to go through the building department to get these permits.
But who controls the building code descriptions?
Yeah, they're actually doing a pretty good job of catching things that need a variance or some sort of check by planning. So I think they're paying attention to the setbacks and the height limits and impervious surface.
Correct me if I'm wrong, our building code is the Florida building code.
That's correct.
That's what we follow.
Yes.
So if the state changed something, we catch it, the building code, as an example, could change. And because we're relying on the building codes to protect this, or, I'm not sure that that's an issue.
Well, once the state makes a ruling, I mean, it's all gonna change anyways. We could have all these structures turn into dwellings.
Not if the city prevents it.
Right, so the building code is covering the construction of it. So this is covering the placement of it and the use of it. So they come and determine whether or not the placement and the use is correct before they get their construction permits from the building department.
This, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, my comments on it, I understand it need to be cleaned up. The 16 feet, I can see for the boat parking, getting it under. I am, on the setbacks, I would like for them to stay the same. 7.5 on the side and 10 in the rear. That's,
You would like for them to, just to clarify,
To stay-
to say what they are for the zoning district in which the building will be located, because there are different
yeah, they are
setbacks.
different.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, you know, some of the, I think, Tim, maybe some of your will help with reducing these things to 50% instead of 75 is gonna kick out a lot of, if you think somebody might go in there and do something. But as far as the code, you do, I mean, bathrooms and stuff, I mean, it's not easy
Yeah, okay.
to add all that. So, but I would like to see the setbacks
I agree
as
with
they,
that.
as they were.
The setbacks, not the height.
I think we're good with that.
And
I'm
I
good
gave,
with that.
I gave Chris a couple of comments. Were you able to give those to Laura
Yes.
today? They were in 2.04.01. In B, I suggested adding the word setback and probably put it after easement. And then in G, number 3, I think we just lost the word feet after 5.
Can I
Yeah.
make a clarification on that 2.04.01B? I would actually prefer that to read, accessory structures shall not be located within any easement required setback, comma, landscape area. Because when we talk about required buffers, to me, that's landscaping buffers, vegetative buffers. It's different than a setback.
But there is a buffer if you're residential and you're budding commercial, that gives you a more stringent, and we look at that, and it
That's a
may be
buffer.
wrong.
That's
a buffer, but it's kind of a
But it's
setback.
a landscape buffer.
They say you can put fence or landscape for that area, but if you're out there building in the real world,
Okay.
you have to be, you can't put anything in that 10 foot.
So required-
That becomes your
That's a
setback.
required buffer.
Yeah.
Required setback or buffer then.
I would leave buffer, I mean, because people miss that buffer in our code a lot. If you're building,
What's in there now?
it's good. Yeah, no, it's been in there, it's just you need to.
That's what I was talking to you about, Laura, and buffer. That when I think of buffer, I think back of the difference between the two districts, zoning districts.
Sure.
Okay, based on the attorney's suggestions, are you good with B?
I'm good. Can we, so just to clarify, we are saying easement comment, comma, required setback or buffer, comma, landscape area.
Sounds.
Setback would be a requirement, but we, throwing the word in required doesn't hurt.
Okay, well, to read it back to her, 'cause she's gonna change it, if that's what we're asking.
Yeah, well, what she read was okay. I'm just saying, when I read it, just putting the word setback and after easement was all that I thought was necessary, but the way she's got
To
it
leave the buffer.
will be fine.
Okay.
But put the 5 feet down below.
Well, I'm wondering if we're deleting that
Yeah.
part 3 anyway.
Okay.
Part G, he's referring to part G, part 3, where it talks about
Correct.
a minimum 5 feet, I forgot the word, feet from the side and rear. But if we're deleting that anyway,
Strike that whole sentence.
yeah, if we, that would,
Yeah.
then could replace that with
So
the,
you'll pick up the required setbacks up in B, and then you'll refer back to your chart for the actual setback.
All right.
So, yeah, I think that's better to delete 3 in its entirety.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, just so we're thinking
Go ahead.
things through, the townhome district has a 0 setback. So do you want a 0 setback on accessory structures for that district too, or would you like to have a minimum?
Ooh,
Zero.
yeah.
It's not zero.
So maybe we change number 3 to say, at minimum 5 feet, but, I hate doing this at the counter.
Well, you would
We need
use
to
the
have, we need to
setback
have,
for the particular land use district, except in a townhouse district, it would have to be 5 feet.
Is that the only one you're picking up, just for
Yeah.
townhouse district, right?
I'm not sure, I think commercial has a 0.
Tourist commercial has a 0
Yeah,
on the
so
side
maybe
also.
we need to have the minimum 5 feet, or whatever's greater according to the zoning district.
All right, we've got a couple of ways we can approach this to try to put to bed here. We could table it, rewrite it, or we could rewrite it and put a motion and
Right.
move forward. At the table, I'll ask for that. I'll ask for whether we want to have a motion. If we have a motion, it has to move forward with the items that we've listed. And if it's not clear, I suggest we table it and rewrite it and do this, next time around. But I'll open to a motion.
I'm also in favor of tabling it and rewriting it so that we can clearly see it and study it before we actually take a vote on it.
So I'm ready to make a motion to table unless there's objection.
No, just the rewrite is only gonna be the setbacks.
Well, I think there's a couple of things. There's two,
Yeah.
and there's another one that I've talked to Laura about, just a word change, from in to within, and, it's listed as.
Yeah, just a couple of minor things.
I think there's a few things, and I would prefer to rewrite them, come back with them rewritten, so we can look at them instead of trying to cobble it together here. Is what
Yeah,
would-
I guess I was asking, are we good with the 16? Are we good with our heights?
Oh,
I suggest we maybe rewrite that a little bit better, and clarify it. I mean, I keep hearing the word
It's hard,
pole barn,
yeah.
and I don't see pole barn, so.
I'm gonna ask for your input. I mean, it's kind of hard for us to make a vote on something individually. So it seems to me there's an appetite to change the setback wording. I understand that. But I also think there's an appetite to change the setbacks. Do we have to vote on that? Or should we
Well, at
change
this-
them all and then come back and vote on it?
Well, you have two options. You could identify the areas that require the changes. Your motion could be to have a reading conditioned upon those items being changed, because you're here for a second reading, I believe. And then you could do that, or if you want to see the language, because a lot of people are visual, if you'd rather see the language, then you would have to postpone the second reading and allow time for that to be revised, brought back to you all. There'd have to be a modification of your publication on the ordinance public hearing, which you do on the county side anyway, so it's no cost, it's just a little bit of time to change it.
Okay, again, I asked just one easy question. On the setbacks, it's hard for me to say, go ahead and change the setbacks when the council hasn't voted.
Well, I think you can take I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question. You can get a consensus of the council as to what it would agree to, and then give that direction to
Okay.
Aurora.
And that's, my consensus is that I hear that they want to change the setbacks. Is that true? I
Yes.
tend to agree with that. Okay. Then we'll call for a motion to rewrite.
Well, you would just table the second reading, allow Laura and maybe myself, she and I can consult to come up with the actual language, bring it back to you for a second reading and consideration for an enactment.
And how long do you need to do this, Chris and Laura? Is 2 weeks enough? Does it need to go longer?
For me,
You could have it ready for next meeting.
Yeah.
So I have a motion I'm ready to read that I think covers this.
Let the Lord.
But I don't know if I'm clear on the height, or what direction the height needs to go.
So I think the heights are okay. It's just not clear to me. I guess if the building code and the 50% in the current impervious protect this, then I'm probably okay with the heights. So I don't think personally that needs to be changed.
Maybe add some terminology that there'd be no inside utilities or something like that, water and sewer perhaps.
Yeah, my concern would be to protect a pole barn becoming something that it wasn't intended to be later on.
Detached garage boathouse. That's the way it works, so that's what we
Well,
have to
could
protect.
also have an RV in there too, Rich.
Yeah.
Right,
But
but that's
when
what
you
we
say-
have to protect.
Yeah, we say boat, yeah, I guess garage.
Some of these setbacks, just to get it, like, I'm looking in the townhouse district, you know, the rear's already 10.
Yeah.
The side's the issue, is 0, and in commercial, the rear's 10, and the side is 0, if an attachment easement is with the adjacent property, so it's not technically, I mean, some of it's in there, I mean, maybe in the townhouse district, we need to adjust that side. But the majority looks like it's picked up in our setbacks.
Well, just the recommendation is to create a minimum so that.
Yeah, I mean, like in commercial, I don't wanna go, if it's already 10 in here, I wanna keep it at 10, because that's what we're doing in the.
But there's
other
no
district.
side, I mean.
Yeah, we need
there's-
to correct the
this-
side.
The language regarding the commercial side setback is such that you could have 6 inch of setbacks. You can satisfy the code.
Yeah, you would have to have the
It's not
easement.
written.
But if you said it's
Well,
the greater.
Well,
If it's
you're right.
0, you have
If it's
to have
0,
an
yeah.
easement.
If you said it's the greater of the respective, the setback in the respective land use district, or 5 feet, side and rear, pick up the last
10.
language, then as long as it's the greater, then you're covered.
So,
Right.
Jason, is your recommendation to make townhome and tourist commercial a minimum of 5 feet on
I
the
think he
side?
just answered.
Yes.
On an accessory structure, now
Or
that's
accessory, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not
different
for
than a
building, yeah,
standard
it's
setback.
just accessory.
Yeah,
He's covered that.
and I would have called you, Laura, but I didn't have your number, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Laura, you clear as mud?
I am.
Okay. The sooner you can get
I
that.
think we're
written-
good with the heights, and it's the setback that we'll adjust.
So I think we need a motion.
Yeah, the sooner you can get,
We're tabling.
Yeah.
Just a motion to table it to the
yeah,
next
a motion
meeting,
to table.
table the reading to the next meeting.
As soon as we get that all put together, get it to Chris. I encourage each council person, get with Chris, review it for the next meeting. Okay.
Okay, tell me,
Laura, do you have the card?
Yes.
Tim, so I'm gonna read the motion. Please advise me if this is, meets the requirements. So I'll make a motion to table the second reading of ordinance 837 until the next council meeting on July 9th, 2024, to allow additional time for staff recommendations and council consideration of setback and height changes.
And some additional, the additional wording in here that we talked about. Yes,
And
sir.
additional wording discussed during the
In
council.
this meeting, yeah.
Yeah.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Tammy, you take the roll, please.
Mayor Wolf,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Linderman,
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about the timeline on that, but it's very important to get it right, guys.
Of course.
Okay, we're moving on to Mr. Sandy Walker.
Oh, that's fine.
You Walker, come on.
So there's been a slight change just in regards to mutual aid agreements for the state, basically, right? So before, it used to be a case of we would be signed up by Bay County and it would cover the whole of Bay County, just one document. Now they want each municipality and or organization within the county to set up their own mutual aid agreement and jump through a bunch of hoops and so on and so forth. We are not doing anything different. You're not being asked to do anything different other than
So this becomes a formality to some
It's
degree?
exactly to a point. It is. If we don't do this, we will not be able to claim monies. If we were to send people somewhere to help others, and/or if we were to ask people to come to us, we wouldn't be able to claim the monies back without basically having signed this mutual aid agreement with the state.
Okay. Good deal.
I
Any
have a
questions for
question,
Sandy?
like, what is the limit, like, as far as the mileage that you can go out? I know the recent fire at the cave, we were not allowed to go that far, so if we're gonna help.
No,
folks-
this is okay. So that would be a mutual aid agreement between ourselves and our neighbours. That's a completely different mutual aid agreement. This is state based, so we could in theory offer, be it manpower from Public Works or Water Department or Fire Department, to go to any part of the state and or even outside the state to help in another natural disaster of some shape, form or size. But to do so and to be able to claim that money back, we have to be involved in this mutual aid agreement with that and the Fire Department of Emergency Management. Before we would have done that through the county, now we have to do it ourselves. That's the only difference. We will be able to do exactly what we could do before and have other people come in like we did before. It's just we have to have our own mutual aid agreements set up with them.
So based on a disaster, I mean, we're open to go anywhere we're asked to go.
Or that we offer to go
On
to,
this
exactly,
agreement,
yes,
right.
yes. But I mean, they can't order us to go there. They will put up on a, it's like on a notice board, they would say, we need X number of people to do the X, Y, and Z. We would then offer, if we ever did, but this is something, we're thinking more of the people that would come here rather than us going somewhere else, to be honest with you. We're not that big that we can send people anywhere.
So to be clear, in my understanding, we still have a county mutual aid agreement.
The county has their own mutual aid agreement, yes.
That's different from this, and
Mhm.
so if the county asks for help, we provide it.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's
I mean, if
not-
they had a
it's
fire in the
not-
county, unincorporated
it's
Bay
not
County, they called for
volunteer,
it.
it's-
No, well, I mean, when we had the big brush fire, they asked for as much mutual aid as they could get from wherever they could get. If we couldn't have supplied people because we didn't have the manpower, we wouldn't have sent them.
Okay, then my last question, and this is really for you, Chris. So for, under this agreement, who approves deployment?
Well, there'd have to be a state of emergency called, and then we would make sure that we had the manpower. We're not gonna send
Who
people.
in the
to-
city approves it? Does the council have to approve it? Do you approve it?
Well, I think it would be me initially, you know, I'd sit down with Sandy and the other department heads, you know, if the public works department was gonna go. And, you know, at that point, if it was a real emergency, I would approve it and then just inform the city council.
But I think this is really more aimed at what we may call into us. If you remember, we had that big problem with Jackson, sorry,
The electric,
the electric, yeah, they ended up suing us because we weren't paying them enough money, because they came here and we signed a piece of paper. Right? That's kind of what this is all about. It's a case of, it's that kind of mutual aid where people come to us to help us when, you know, when something big happens to us. We really, we would be sending 1 or 2 people at most anywhere. And it's not as major an issue as they sent us a lot of people and equipment and so on and so forth, more than we realized, I think, at the time, and then we ended up with a $600,000 bill that nobody saw coming.
All right, any questions from the public for Sandy? Any questions at all? Okay, Sandy, you get a seat. Anything, close the public, anything at the table?
The only thing, Mayor, the actual effective date, which is in the heading, but I think you need to add, maybe after passed, duly adopted by the City Council of the City of Mexico Beach, and effective on this 25th day of June.
Chris, can you change that?
yes, Sandy's the one that,
Yeah, we have to have it in by July 1st, I think is the deadline, but they said they worked with us.
That's just 2 words.
Yeah, no, that's fine, but I mean, if it wasn't to pass tonight for some obscure reason, or somebody had a question I couldn't answer, we have a little bit.
we'll get the correction made.
Okay, good deal. A motion to approve or deny?
I'll make a motion to approve.
As corrected, as nothing.
Yes, that's noted.
Second.
Tam, take the roll, please.
Mayor Wolf,
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Lindahl?
Yes.
Thank you, Chief Sammy. Read debris, RFP, Chris.
Yeah, you gotta read the resolution,
Same job.
Good.
that was a motion to read, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So you wanna read it, or you want me to read it?
Go ahead.
Okay. Resolution 2403. Resolution of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, adopting the statewide mutual agreement and aid agreement and assigning an effective date.
So you need a motion to adopt as correct.
I'll make a motion that we adopt as corrected.
I'll second it.
Tammy, take the roll, please.
Okay, Mayor Wolf,
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Lindahl?
Yes.
All right, Chris, moving on, marine debris, RFP.
Mayor and council, the city advertised for marine debris removal. Whenever we did that, if you're not familiar with the project and why we did it, there's approximately 83 to 84 items of debris still offshore, which could become a hazard at some point. That debris was caused and deposited by Hurricane Michael. Whenever the city advertised it, we received 4 companies who submitted proposals to the RFP: Aftermath, Kaiser Kane, Dorado Services, and TNT Marine. The elected officials scored each of those companies and their proposals, and Kaiser Kane received the highest score. As a note here, the lowest bid didn't, the lowest bid was more than what FEMA is offering to complete the project. Dina Batista with Atkins has approached FEMA about seeing if they're gonna fund the additional money, and we're still waiting to hear back on them. So worst case scenario, we may have to shorten the scope of work, and then that will just allow us to pick up X amount of items out of that 83 to 84 that's out there.
So we'll go ahead and do the approval and then hold off for FEMA input.
That's correct. We need to award the project, and then that will allow them to get mobilized, or at least know that, they should be mobilizing in the near future. We don't see this project taking place until after Labor Day. So, like I said, we'll keep the council informed if FEMA is gonna fund the entire project, or if we need to decrease the scope of work.
Okay. We're going to open it to the public. Any questions? Everybody's good? Close the public. Okay. Discussion at the table.
No, just the wording, just want to make sure when we approve it, that we're doing the proper wording, that we're not awarding that contract based on what they turned in, that we're awarding it based on what FEMA's response is gonna be, or what they're gonna pay.
Just need a motion to award the debris
Yes.
removal project, and just leave it at that. That project may change in the future depending on what FEMA agrees to fund or not fund. But we're just awarding the contract for the project at this point, and.
It's not gonna tie us up.
No, sir.
We don't have to award the project based on FEMA approval of funds? Yes or no?
Yeah, this is a legal question.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was listening to your discussion. If you wanna make sure you don't overspend, then I think your motion would probably be to award the contract not to exceed the amount reimbursed by FEMA.
There you go.
Okay. Ask for a motion to approve and deny.
Make a motion that we approve the marine debris removal contract to Kaiser Kane, not to exceed FEMA's reimbursement.
The amount to be
The amount
reimbursed by
to be
FEMA.
reimbursed.
I'll second it.
Mayor Wolf,
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Lindahl.
Yes.
I'm just curious, Chris, does the public understand the procedure that the council goes through to do this? Have we ever explained that to them?
Not that I'm aware of, not in my time here.
I guess So just give you a quick rundown. All these RFQs, when they come in, they're all gathered by the city clerk, and they're put together, and then on all the categories in which we're grading is done. So you may have 5, in this case we had 5 different people that did the job, and each folder is probably 75 to 100 pages. So we go through all 5 of them, each council member grades it, and then we come up with a tally for numbers, 1, 2, or 3, and that's pretty much how we work the system. So now that we know that, let's go ahead and move on to the next one, which is the disaster debris monitoring.
Mayor and Council, the city put out an RFP to try to hire a contractor for disaster debris monitoring. This is one of those contracts where we hope we never have to use it. What this company would do is, if there was ever a major storm event or a natural man-made disaster where it generated a lot of debris, then this company would be there to monitor and make sure there was no fraud being committed. It would verify the amount of the debris that was loaded onto the trucks, and they would have to, verify that as they were leaving, as well as verify the vehicles when they come back in, that they're empty, there's no false bottoms and the like. So again, hopefully we'll never have to use this, but there was 5 companies that submitted responses to the RFP: Eisman and Russo, Rostand Solutions, Tetra Tech, Debris Tech, and GSA. Each of these were also scored by the council, and Eisman and Russo is the company with the highest score. Just for what it's worth, Eisman and Russo was the one that worked here after Hurricane Michael in this capacity.
Have they given you a proposed contract, Chris? Because that contract's kind of lengthy. Might be nice to, if you could go over it.
Go ahead and move to the public. Any questions on the disaster debris monitoring RFP? Go ahead and close the public. Open the table for discussion.
I had concerns that I realized that Eisman and Russo got the best score, but they were also the most expensive. Is that to our advantage to have them repeat possibly the work again? Or would we want to start out with somebody fresh? Eisman and Russo was like $100 per hour for on-site manager, whereas Debris Tech was only $50 for on-site manager. That's a big difference in the money. I realize that's FEMA money, but we need all of the good stewards of FEMA money. So should we consider maybe starting out with a fresh company that maybe doesn't have a relationship with the previous event that we've had? Maybe that would have been a better choice. And I'm thinking in terms of especially the cost. Because that's almost double with these many.
I didn't bring the proposals with me, but there was a lot of things that went into it. You listed one position being almost double the cost, but there were several positions listed. There was also alternate positions that they may use that wasn't specified in the RFP, and then there was positions that were specified in the RFP that they may not use. Some of the companies were less expensive too, depending on whether or not they used electronic monitoring equipment. So, I mean, there's more things that went into this selection on the price than just what the one position was that you listed. But ultimately, it's the city council's decision. I do know, based on, working with FEMA and working with Dina Batista, that if the city council puts out an RFP for a contractor that's going to be used for a FEMA response, that if we don't follow the RFP and the score sheets, then we need to have a really good reason, or we may not get reimbursed at some point in the future if we do use them.
Any other comments on that?
Well, can I ask you, Chris, the criteria we use, is that provided by FEMA, or is that provided by Dina?
Dina.
Okay. And if I can't remember, was this the Eisman and Russo, were they ones that were gonna do this electronically, some of the monitoring? Do you recall?
I don't recall.
Yeah, okay.
I think 3 of the 5 had the electronic monitoring, but I don't remember which 3 it was.
So what would be the benefit to have an electronic monitoring?
Cost.
It decreases the cost.
Well, obviously, the attorney said that it'd be wise to look at the contract. I mean, I'm okay with awarding somebody. That was the other thing, this contract, if we go with these folks, the contract was for, I mean, obviously, it's not indefinite.
5 years.
Just trying to remember that, so that's fine.
Yeah, the contract is many pages long, and I think
Well, that was your,
it's multiple, pages, because FEMA got involved and said, this is the form, general form we want you to use, so we just need to make sure, Chris and I, that we've covered our basis of what the RFP required in that contract.
Before we vote or after?
yeah.
No,
we-
just,
Yeah.
you can vote to accept the bid, but the actual contract then would be reviewed before it's signed.
Okay.
I remember looking at this, I made some notes, I was looking back for some notes that I made, and, Debris Tech, their pricing was way off base, right? There was one that was, you guys, anybody remember that? Their pricing was so off from everybody else, it wasn't even close. And it kinda shows here on that, because Debris Tech is 75, and everybody else is between 37 and 40.
Yeah, they were really,
This is a 10-point variance.
they were really inexpensive.
The other
That's
four.
why they. But they didn't have the other.
Was Debris Tech right? Their pricing right? That's another question. I mean, it's over 25 points out of 5 people that graded it. Where the other 4 are within 10 points of each other. Anything else at the table? Okay, ask for a motion, deny or approve?
Make a motion that we award the response for the disaster debris monitoring service to Osmond and Russo. Did I say that right? With the attorney and the administrator reviewing the contract.
Right. And since it'll be over the limit, I assume the mayor will sign it.
Second.
Aaron, take a roll, please.
Mr. Linderman,
Yes.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mayor Wolf,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
No,
I got checked out. I don't mean it.
All right, moving on to the next thing is setting dates for budget workshop. Chris?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, we discussed this at the last meeting. I was gonna be asking for council approval to set at least the first workshop in July. We probably will need to hold 2 workshops because we'll need to get a tentative millage rate over to the county and the state, by August the 5th. So, I would recommend either, the second week as the first workshop, and then,
Second week of July?
yeah, yes, either the 10th or the 11th. I know in the past, people were hesitant to schedule anything for a Wednesday evening because, some people go to church. But, Wednesday and Thursday of that week, is open as far as no other meetings, and, Councilman Adams will be here for those 2 days.
Okay, July the 10th or 11th, is that good for, not good for anybody, either one of those dates?
would the 16th just be getting too close to?
Well, I mean, we could do it on the
What,
16th,
Tuesday?
but I would like to have another meeting on either the 30th or 31st. So, I mean, the 16th is still available. I just want to make sure we have enough time, between the 16th and the second meeting of the month to make any changes that the council recommends.
All right, so the 10th or the 16th for the first meeting, the 31st for the second.
Well, what if we went with the 16th and the 30th, that way we're being consistent with Tuesdays?
I mean,
Is that an option?
Yeah, it's fine with me. It's council decision.
I'd rather do it as early as possible.
Yeah, I'd rather get to it on the 10th or the 11th on the first one, if you have an opinion.
All right, Chris, the first one on the 10th,
Unless.
is that good?
I mean, it's fine with me. Like I said, this is council.
And
Did
then,
you have something to say?
No, I could do it.
and then the 30th, that Tuesday, the 2nd?
Well, do we wanna,
Wait that long?
yeah, do we wanna fall back the 24th or, cause he said it's gotta be in by the 5th.
You need some time to get it ready, so it's up to you, Chris. I mean, we're open another date.
We also got that week of the 9th, you know, the next week after the 11th.
You wanna come right back at it, or do you wanna wait till the 30th?
I'd like to have a couple of weeks in between the first and second meeting to
Okay.
make changes.
All right, sounds like we're going with the 10th, the first, we're gonna do 9 or 6? 5? First meeting, in the morning?
Or in the morning.
I want the morning.
All right, 9 o'clock, second meeting?
Okay, back up, I'm sorry, I thought we were gonna do it at 6. I have a meeting on the 10th in the morning.
Okay, what about the 11th?
Again, I'm okay with it, I just wanna get this thing.
Let's do the 11th at 9.
If we do the 11th at 9, that works for me.
I'm good with that.
Okay, Chris. First one on the 11th at 9. Can we do the 30th at 6 so we can get some citizens in there? Is that good?
It's good with me.
You love him, being sick.
Good with me. All right. That's it?
That's it. Thank you.
All right, we move on to citizens' comments. Your opportunity, anybody?
We do have
Whoops, sorry.
the project list. It's item number 4 on the budget. I mean, on the agenda.
Guess who didn't have a project list, guys? Okay. Be right with you, Danny. We'll be right with you.
Oh, I'll wait.
Sorry. All right, Chris, go ahead.
This is the updated project list. We didn't do one last month because of the fact that we had all of our consultants come in and introduce themselves and briefly discuss the projects that they're all working on. I will say that there's been 2 updates since this was typed up, and that's on the 15th Street pedestrian bridge. I know that's important to everyone. I received engineered drawings for that project today. And then on the police fire municipal building, which will be built on the 25 acres here to the north of us, the latest from FEMA is they're making that the new priority. With the jetties, the funding for the jetties being approved at any time, then the municipal complex will be the new priority. And they're going to focus on that and try to get that completed as soon as possible.
Any questions?
Did I ask you, when we approved those restrooms, how long is that, I mean, how much longer do we got till it,
5 to 6 months on delivery.
is that what it was? I didn't recall that.
It wasn't ever discussed.
It is?
Yeah, it's on the paperwork.
Okay. Well, I just got it.
It's Tammy's fault.
Chris, did you just get an update on the jetty and the pier?
The jetty, like I said, funding can take place at any day on the jetties. We're good to go there, we're just waiting. The pier, it's, the beginning stages of the Army Corps of Engineering permitting process. We're 2 years out from that being completed, so the pier is not gonna be moving forward anytime soon, as the Army Corps of Engineers does their process. We haven't met in a few weeks with FEMA. Normally we meet every 2 weeks with FEMA and FDEM and Atkins. And we haven't met recently because there's been some turnover at FEMA. And we're getting a new point of contact there to deal with. David, who's been there since Hurricane Michael struck, is being rotated out. So that's why
Not been much movement recently, and Mr. Linderman, that's why I never contacted you about coming in and sitting in on the meeting.
All right, any questions on the list? Anybody? Excuse me.
So the 15th Street, so I guess all this stuff is online, so I'm kind of, this is my first meeting here. So all the stuff was online where I could have like reviewed all these things to know what was happening tonight?
Did you post this on, you did, this one on the agenda? It has to be posted. It will be.
Okay, so the 15th Street, I was just, what's happening with the 15th Street crossover?
Chris?
That's the one where we just received the engineer drawings today, and now they're gonna be, drawing up the bid document so we can put that project out for bid. We're also,
Because there already is a crossover there, right?
no, there's a vehicle bridge, but not a pedestrian bridge, and it's a dangerous location for people who are walking.
Wait, I'm confused. 15th Street and 98, is that where we're at? No. Oh, okay, so that's why I know where I'm at.
If you turn off 98 onto 15th Street,
Okay.
that first curve that you hit, there's a bridge there.
Okay, I gotcha. Okay, now I know where you're at.
Yeah, that's where the pedestrian bridge will be going.
Gotcha.
And we also have to work with Duke Energy on relocating that power pole that's there, where this bridge will be going.
Perfect.
And you just received the documents, the engineering, you haven't
The engineer
reviewed,
drawings today, yes.
you haven't reviewed the drawings, or you didn't see anything?
And we've been working on the audit.
Yeah,
and
well, that's
budget,
true.
so, yeah.
It's just,
Okay, anything else on that? That project update was not on the packet. Online. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was my fault. I forgot to give it to Tammy whenever she emailed everything out. so.
I will put it on there.
It'll be there in a second.
Yes. When we're done with the meeting, we will put it on there for everybody to see.
All right. Any, all right, we're good? Any other questions on that, guys? We're good? Good deal. Danny, come on up.
My name's Denny Hughes, 500 Georgia Avenue, Mexico Beach. Hey, I've been in here before, and I knew you were getting ready to go into the budget process, and we're needing some things done at pickleball. And one of the things that we would like to see, pickleball's been a great success here. I think Chris is there every day and he sees what's going on. We have people coming in. Last week, 2 days, we had people, half the people playing were visitors that come in and they check at the motels, and that's the first thing they ask is there pickleball? And so we're getting a lot of use out of the courts, but we need some things to be done. I presented this to you, I think it was 3 years ago, and it could have been 4. Jerry, you probably remember.
Oh.
At that time, there was 5.5 million people playing pickleball in the United States. Today, that's grown to almost 37 million people. So the sport's still just growing. But a couple things that we need down there, and I've talked to Chris, and I've gotten him bids, I think, 3 of them. But we would like to have, we call them wind breaks, but they're really plastic slats that go in the chain link fence. And that, it'll do 2 things. It cuts down the wind, the breeze blowing through there for pickleball, and it makes it safer now. I'll explain that if you want to know, but it does. The other thing it would do is muffle the sound to kind of give respect to the neighbors over there. We'd like for you to consider it in your budget process. The lights, and Tommy probably knows more about them. I think they need new bulbs in them. Tommy?
Yeah, to answer back on the slats,
Yes.
Bracewell just come out, gave us a bid last week, they're working on that now. So we are looking into that, Chris.
Okay.
I had Current Solutions come out and we changed out a bulb in one of them to go to LED, and if you go outside, they're playing tonight, you'll be able to see it worked perfectly. I got with Charlie at Current Solutions, he's ordering more bulbs. We're gonna retrofit all of those old ones, get them out. They'll be a lot brighter and less energy going to the LED, so we are working on that too, Mr. Dean.
Thank you, Tommy.
Yes, sir.
And the other thing we need, and I know this is simple, but we need a sign. We've got them portable nets out there. Some soccer players got in there and moved them around and just kicked and tore them up. Now, I went up and repaired them, and we can probably get another year out of them. But, you know, that needs to be in the budget to keep these things going. It'd be nice to have, and when I say bleachers, don't think I'm talking about, you know, a stadium. I'm just talking some benches to sit on. The ones we got over there are pretty bad shape. Anyway, if you guys would consider that, we'd appreciate it. Any questions?
Good, good.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Tommy.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments from citizens? Go ahead and close that. Mayor comments. I got a couple things that, I just wanna see if you have an appetite for it. I don't, you know, it might, just some things that people are talking to me about. Fishing on the beach. I fish offshore on the beach. There's been some comments that maybe we ought to designate an area or a timeline. So I want to see if the council can get out there, talk to the people you know, and kind of find out if there's an appetite for that, to do something like maybe during summer hours, we have a designated area, or maybe all year we have a designated area. I don't want to give you the solution, but I just want to see if it's something that there'd be some interest. We all know we go down the beach during the summer and there's a ton of people out there, a lot of kids, and guys throwing hooks in the middle, so.
Has there ever been a problem?
Has anybody ever got caught by a hook? I can't tell you, I don't know.
If you talk to the game warden, that might be the first one you talk to. Instead of the citizen, I'll give you my guy's number.
Hey, look, I'm bringing it to the table for the council to see if they have an appetite for it. It's something the citizens are talking to them about. If you haven't heard anything, that's fine. If you have, maybe we should look at it.
I don't like it, but I don't think we can, I don't
No,
think,
it's a
I don't
public
think
venue.
we can. That's why I say I think he needs to call. Yeah, FWC.
I'll do that. I'm not pushing it, guys. I'm telling you.
Well, I don't like it either. I don't like the kids out there swimming with all the pictures, but
Right.
I don't think I could.
Regarding regulation.
Okay.
But I would like to, I'd be interested in if my guy says we could do it now.
All
Whether
right.
it's a time or it'd be nice.
All right, obviously, we're getting into the budgeting month for us, so the city administrator and city clerk will be pretty busy, so as a council, I'm gonna ask that we value their time and make sure that we, if we have questions and stuff, we get in there, take care of it, and let them go back to work. We just got done doing an audit, and we've got a lot of things to answer. I just wanna make sure that you get your answers quick, get your answers that you need, but if you use email or something else, rather than interrupt them during this time while we're doing this audit and things, I'd appreciate it. There was a note about trash pickup, hopefully everybody heard about that. It's changed, make sure you're communicating with people. And that is all I have, except for, if you might want to ask Chris to just update you on the audit. That, you know, we're working on the 22 audit and the 23 audit. So we've had some good news about the 22 audit, right?
Well, the good news is that everything was submitted and finished today. It'll be submitted to the state tomorrow, both the audit and the annual financial report, which we refer to as the AFR. Everything was submitted to James Moore, who is the auditing company, and they have told me that once they send me the management letter, I'll sign off on it, get it back to them. They'll put the dates on the paperwork, hit send, and it'll all be submitted to the state tomorrow. So it's extremely good news regarding that. I received the draft AFR and the draft audit today. As I mentioned at the last meeting where this was discussed, you know, I told the auditing company just, you know, assume everything was approved. You know, we don't have the time to waste. It has to be submitted to the state this week, so we don't have time to do a formal review or check for typos. And today, as I was flipping through it, I did, you know, see a couple of typos. It doesn't change the audit. It is what it is. One of the things that I will say is that whenever I get the finalized audit, I will send it out to all the elected officials. And we received the same write-ups this year as what we've received the last 2 years. Nothing more, nothing less, nothing new being annotated. And again, this is for fiscal year 22. When I say, you know, this year, it's fiscal year 22 that I'm referring to there. So whenever you get that, you will see the same 3 comments on the financial statement. And then you'll see 4 comments for the financial condition and management. And again, it's the same 7 that we've received for the last 2 years. So expect that tomorrow. I'm fairly certain that I will be getting the finalized version tomorrow, and I'll get that emailed out to everyone tomorrow as soon as I receive it.
I think all the council look forward to seeing that. If we've had the same 7 for the last few years, it sure would be nice to get them off there.
I know there's one that we're going to be able to get off, and this will be the last year for it. I mean, it's a fairly easy one. It's already been resolved since 22. But again, since this covers fiscal year 22, it shows up in this year's audit as well.
Good deal.
And furthermore, in regards to the fiscal year 22, I've been talking diligently to both James Moore and to Carl Riggs and Ingram. Carl Riggs and Ingram is, I would say, easily 75% done with having everything together for the fiscal year 23 audit. Once they get the journal entries and changes that they need from James Moore for the fiscal year 22 audit, they'll make those changes in the fiscal year 23 documentation, and very soon after that, we'll be starting the fiscal year 23 audit. Nobody wants to waste any time and drag this out. Everything, as far as Mexico Beach is concerned, is fresh in both James Moore and Carl Riggs and Ingram's minds, and so we're going to move into that as quickly as possible.
That's good news.
It is good news.
Very good. Just one thing for you, Chris, maybe next meeting you can update us on the financial person or have resumes or anything?
We've received 6 resumes so far, and right now none of them have any municipal experience.
Okay.
So the closeout is on July 7th for that job listing.
Do we have a plan after that if you have that many resumes and don't qualify?
We're gonna see. I'm gonna try to get it out there as much as possible now and spread the word, and hopefully we'll get some more resumes between now and then. But that's just where we sit right now.
Okay. All right. The council, any council comments?
I have some concerns. Last meeting I spoke with Tim, and I gave Tim some pictures of some properties here that are extremely neglected and have been for several years. The first one is on Georgia Avenue. It's very close to the Under the Palms Park. It's been very neglected. The weeds are extremely high. There was a septic tank that caved in. The city provided safety issues for that and covered it with some boards. At times the door is open. Some of the neighbors nearby have had rat problems due to that. An elderly couple, they have health issues. They've gone to a great expense because of the rat issues. On the other side of this house, somebody has an extended fence that I'm guessing that's not usually allowed, but maybe it was, so that they don't have to look at this particular house. I've spoken to Kathy, I've spoken to Chris, I've spoken to Greg in the building department. He said the last time they had a remodel permit was in 2023 for roof repairs, which that was partially done, and then they left the job. So nothing is being done. I think our people have done all they can to provide what they need to, but then it seems like maybe we do need to go to some legal avenues because this has gotten out of control for a number of years. It's a safety concern, particularly because it backs up to a park. And there's a second property. This property, I call it the perpetual construction site, and that's it's a house that has been there for more than a decade. We've been here for 16 years, and I've seen this house most of the time that we've been here, under construction. I think y'all might be familiar with this house. They use the address of Fortner, but it appears the front of the house is on Oleander. They've had dumpsters at this house the entire time. They just sit there and sit there, like, whatever systems we have in place, whatever we have tried as a city, nothing seems to work. We need to take some legal actions on that. When I did email Tim, he said you'd be glad to help, but I thought my direction was to help Chris Hubbard and the code enforcement officer if they requested. I, as the city council member, am requesting some legal assistance with this. This is a serious situation. I can't imagine any city that lets something like this go on for years and years, and whatever we're trying, whatever we're doing in place, it doesn't work.
Just for the record, before we go any further in this conversation, I just want to let the council know that individual elected officials cannot, order the city attorney or anybody else to do anything that's going to cost the city money.
But for him to direct it back to the resources of the city that I have already contacted and gathered my information, why would we go back there again?
As an elected official, you cannot direct anything that's going to cost the city money without council approval. Everything should be run through.
And that's fine.
And I think Ms. Hamilton understands that. I think that maybe the frustration is what's the next step, Chris? We talked last meeting. Let me look at this. We talked the last meeting about making a list of addresses and stuff like that. I don't know, Kathy told me she had an Excel spreadsheet.
Yes.
We need that. You need to bring that to the council. We need to add these two to that list. We need to make a decision as a council if we're gonna turn it over legal to the masters or whatever and go to the next step. So we need to do that.
I mean, there's no problem with that. I just want everyone to know that individual elected officials can't be doing anything that's going to cost the citizens and taxpayers money.
And I
without
think
council approval.
that's the reason why she answered it the way she did.
Yeah, just a question, and I should already know this, but who is our magistrate now on these items? It's not,
I've met him one time. I don't know
it's
his
not
name. I don't
Tim.
remember it now.
We have a system in place.
Yes.
It's Dana Morris.
He's an attorney in things.
So we need to start, obviously these properties have popped back up, it's been a few years. We tackled them a couple of years ago, we started cleaning up, and then we got a few strays.
Well, like 600 Georgia Avenue, when Ms. Hamilton brought that up at the last meeting, I talked to the code enforcement officer the next day. She had already contacted them about coming down and mowing the grass and taking care of that. So.
Well, the thing is, people are slipping through, it's just like the permits, you can go pull a remodel permit or a construction permit, and if you go out there and do a piddle around with it, it can be a perpetual permit. It's just,
Yeah, which is what.
what she's talking about, like the other one.
Yes.
And it's a tough situation, because they're skirting the law.
Yeah.
I mean, or they're not getting it, they're not skirting it. They don't.
And just for Ms. Hamilton, I did at least talk with Chris and Kathy, and we talked about having a meeting, the three of us, not just focused on what your concerns are there, the two, but on a bigger picture of, apparently, according to Kathy, there are a number of properties that the magistrate's not been able to get any movement on. So I would suggest there may be a broader issue to just make sure everybody knows the process. And if it has to be an unfit and unsafe process that needs to go before the magistrate needs to be engaged to have a hearing. So, Chris and I are sensitive to not spending any money, but I think the process is what I was trying to get to figure out if our process is correct, and then figure out where to go from there with the council's permission.
No offense, but I think that this is something that's been brought up at other council meetings, and I think everybody understands the process. I think it's time to make the process work. So if it's not working with the magistrate, do we move on to you? We need to be told that. So as soon as we get the list from Chris, we'll make a decision. We'll ask the magistrate what they're gonna do. If they're gonna do something, fine. If they're not, we're gonna come to you and we're gonna ask you to do something, the next step. We need to make next steps. We understand the process.
Well, the next step, Mayor, in all respect, the next step would include the magistrate, because the magistrate's the one that has to issue the orders to say, you've got to clean it up by this date. If you don't clean it up by that date, then the city's authorized to do demolition on the property. So, yes, I would be involved in that process, but I do think that it still would involve the magistrate. Now, if you have someone who is potentially a problem and potentially maybe unstable or whatever, I have taken one of those kind of cases to the circuit judge, who told the fellow, the magistrate ordered you to do this, you have not done it, I'm ordering you to do it, and at that point, there wasn't much he could say.
Okay, and that's where we want to get to. We've done enough, so we want to get to that step. So we'll, Chris, you get the list together, we'll add these two to the list, bring it to the council, and we'll make a decision to move it forward.
I'll email it out to the council tomorrow.
Fine.
Yeah, we need to get in touch with the.
Well, the worst property in town, we can't get in touch with the.
We gotta get in touch with the magistrate. We got, I mean, obviously, like he said, we have this process, we need to start implementing it. And if that's not the person that's gonna do it, then we need to move on. I know when we went down this road years ago to pick all this, it was hard for the council to find a good magistrate that was gonna participate. And I think that's where we're slipping back into that issue. So we need to, he's the one, obviously, Tim said, we gotta get him back on board, or hurt Dana, you know.
It's a man.
Yeah. And then if that's not working, we need to move.
Agreed.
Yeah. And going back to the house on Georgia, at some point, I think it was in 2020, there was an engineer, Mark, that found the house to be structurally sound in 2020. Of course, here we are in 2024, probably not sound. So would that be a step that we could take before we go to a magistrate? Or at what point could we have an
Well, the
engineer?
magistrate would have to order the demolition. If the hearing is held and the magistrate determines, based upon the building inspector's analysis, that the structure was unsafe, then your ordinances would trigger what happens from the magistrate's perspective, yes.
And the thing about the property owner with the, you know, the perpetual construction job that's been more than a decade, he has more than one property in this town, and he has another property that is quite full of debris in the front yard and the backyard. So, you know, maybe he's thinking, well, I got this for more than a decade, I can do whatever I want to on this other property. And as a result, there's some property behind him that is rental property that to secure their clients, they've had to put up a fence. So it seems like constantly the city, other citizens have to work around these problems, and it's like, I don't understand why these people are being protected for like a decade. Like, you know, it just doesn't seem right. How can that go on for years and years? I just don't get that.
I don't know any of
Yeah,
that history.
I'm making a statement, I'm not asking for an answer.
Anything else?
Chris, I've had a couple of comments, complaints about the wood walkovers, the base where you step off, that they're washed out. I don't know how often you check those, and if
Usually
that's,
about once a month.
yeah. Well, I know 15th Street, I've been told by a couple people that it needs to be addressed. As we approach the budget, I wanted to just talk about this real quick and get your thoughts later. This is ordinance 546, and it deals with Mexico Beach. Are there more copies? Deals with Mexico Beach, allowing a tax credit for, it is exemption, but it's tied to the homestead. It was, the date on this was 2007. I don't know if there's been any increases to it. It says 20,000. If you look in the actual ordinance, I think it's 34.17 that speaks to it. And the reason I bring this up is I would like to look at providing some relief to people over 65 with the poverty level type income. So 20,000 is below the state and the county's poverty level, which for a family of four is I think about just under 30,000, and for an individual it's just under 15,000. So I just want to give that to you to look at, to think about. As we get into the budget season, I would like to talk about Do we need to extend relief? Can we afford to extend it? Is this the tool, or is there some other device we need to look at?
Okay.
Thank you.
Good thing to talk about. Anybody else?
Well, like the Gollywop, we had a good success at the Gollywop. I mean, good. Had a big turnout. We parked both cars, me and Tim and Chris did. And the man furnished us a golf cart, and I'm terrible. What was it? Who was it? What's the name of that company? Out of Appalachia. His name was Bill.
Yeah, it's the company that sets up here in town on Fridays,
Right.
down next to the old Beach Pizza building.
He furnished us a brand new one, all in. I appreciate all of it. We got it.
Didn't he donate a cart also for the raffle?
And he donated a cart to the Mexico Beach Artificial Reef Association for their raffle.
Yeah. Anything else at the table?
I just say something real quick?
Council?
Just again, to reiterate what Councilman Smith said, a lot of help went into putting the Gollywopper together and so on, and it's much appreciated from those of us who were involved in the running of the Gollywopper. We were there for the first time this year, but on a small scale. They want us to do more next year, we shall see. But again, a big thank you to everybody that did help out, from Tommy's team to Councilman Smith. I saw way too much of the city administrator over the weekend. So again, just a big thank you to everybody, and it was a thundering success. Just one other small thing. I've worked across in the building there for 5 years, and it's not often I see doors closed because people are having to work so hard. These people, 1, 2, 3, have put a lot of time and effort into that audit, and I think they should be applauded for it.
They should.
And there are others who aren't here tonight, Mary and Vanessa.
Okay, city attorney.
Yes, sir. Just to bring you up to date, pursuant to your directions, I have given the chairman of the county commission notice of the potential annexation of the Farmdale, and it's also owned by a company called ZF Bay annexation, and that annexation would be broken down into 3 pieces: the east side, the west side, and the commercial. And then associated with that will also be ordinances dealing with change of land use to the Mexico Beach land use categories. And then you have the development agreement that was proposed. I have given a number of comments to their council. I heard from Mr. Faison today that he's going to be meeting with their council. He was somewhat surprised at the number of changes, but I told him that statute required some of those changes. So anyhow, that's in the works. The plan currently, based upon the documents that we provided to the chairman of the county commission, would be to come before you on the 23rd of July, and then also on August the 13th. And that'll be for ordinances and the development agreement. I've worked with Tammy once on coming up with the publication dates for all that, but we've had to move them now that the process is taking a little longer to get through than we thought it was going to. So anyhow, that's coming before you all at the 23rd meeting, hopefully.
All right. City administrator, anything?
Yes, sir. Talked about the fiscal year 22 audit being completed and will be submitted to the state tomorrow. As everyone's aware, we've also been working on the JLAC audit. That's a different, separate state audit that we're going through right now. It's rapidly coming to an end. JLAC had originally wanted yesterday to be their last day of this audit, and unfortunately that didn't happen. They requested some additional documents from 2019. We've discussed this before, but in 2019 the city was recovering from Hurricane Michael. So obviously at that time recovery and rebuilding took precedence, so a lot of the documents were not scanned in. So city staff is having to go through all these documents from 2019 by hand in order to try to get JLAC the information that they've requested. And so it's not over, but it will be over soon. I fully expect that whenever we get that audit, that we're gonna have numerous write-ups from JLAC in regards to the audit. As everyone here is aware, it's not a financial audit, it's an operational audit. And unfortunately, when you look at JLAC's regulations and guidelines and how they want people to operate, they treat Mexico Beach the same way as they treat Miami. And so even though Miami has thousands of employees and we've got 35, they expect us to be, following all the procedures. Most of the write-ups that I think we can expect to receive are going to be dealing with policies and procedures, and the fact that we just don't have them in writing. We don't have the time to sit around and write up policies and procedures. The city's not spent the money to hire a consultant to come in and write up policies and procedures. So based on everything that I've seen and the conversations that I've had with JLAC, those are the type of things that we can expect. Anybody that's aware of how we operate over there, if somebody comes in new, we have a new employee, they need access to the Springbrook accounting software. Someone, most likely Tammy, will walk down to Sherry's office because she's the Springbrook administrator, say, hey Sherry, this person needs, access to Springbrook, take care of it. And, they're asking us for processes, procedures, do we have any verification in writing that they were approved to have Springbrook? And again, being a small town like we are with, everybody in the same building, working together, we've never done anything like that, and it's not been that formal. So again, that's what I fully expect. We won't get a draft report back from JLAC until probably September, maybe even later. And obviously we'll keep you informed as we move forward on that. But there's no reason in sugarcoating what I see, coming down the pike, and that's, what we can all expect to see whenever it gets here. Last thing is, there's been an application for variances at 3114 Highway 98. Most of y'all are aware of that. The applicants for that variance have requested to have a workshop on July the 2nd, preferably in the morning at 9 a.m., just so that they can come in, explain the project, explain the variances. Their engineer will be here and discuss what they're wanting to do and why they're asking for the variance. If you've talked to me, and most likely we've gone down and looked at the property, if not together, then at least individually. This is a very unique case, and it poses some hurdles that don't normally come into play whenever we have a variance request. So if the city council will consider having a workshop that morning, then I would ask for a motion at this time to do that.
I make a motion that we have a workshop on July 2nd regarding 3114
9 a.m.
Highway 98 at 9 a.m. And I would also with that, just kind of, if you can catch our attorney up to speed pretty quickly on that.
We briefly discussed it, and I sent it over the site plan last week.
Do we have a second for that?
Second.
You can take a roll.
Okay. Mayor Wolf,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton,
Yes.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Lincoln.
So yes, but I'm not available.
Workshop.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Should be later.
Motion to adjourn?